Well, welcome to the MVP show. We're off to France today to speak with none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Tanguy Touzard, creator of the XrmToolBox. Nobody has produced more CRM tools than our guest today. Please note that the Microsoft Business Application podcast is on the move. We'll no longer be on crm.audio. We've grown up and going to our own little part of the digital world. You can find us on your favorite podcast player by searching for NZ365 Guy. For full show notes, visit nz365guy.com/55. Now let's have a chat with Tanguy. Hey Tanguy, welcome to the show.
Hi Mark.
Hey, it's good to have you on here. I haven't seen you for a while, been that I think last year for MVP Summit. You were welcoming your new baby daughter into the world, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And the year before I was moving to countryside, so it's been 3 years since we haven't met.
It's been a while. So where are you living nowadays?
I'm living in Nantes, which is a town near Atlantic Ocean. So it's 2 hours far from Paris. But I'm still working in Paris, few days per week. But I'm living in the countryside near the ocean, and it's nicer.
Okay, so are you commuting those days at your work?
Yes.
Wow, so that's by train? I take it.
Yeah, it's 2-hour trains. So I'm doing 2 days per week in Paris generally, and I'm working from home the 3 remaining days.
Nice. Excellent. So tell us a bit about your life, your family, kind of what you do outside of the dynamic space.
I'm not doing so much things. I guess I have a family with 2 kids, so that's already a lot of work.
Keeps you busy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a 5-year-old son. That made me miss one MVP Summit too, when he was born. And I have a daughter, which is 8 months old now. She's growing very fast and she's really, I won't say smart, but she can already, move, through the home. So it's nice to see her moving around.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So how long have you been married?
Married since, almost 10 years.
Wow. And what was the best country you went to for your honeymoon?
Let me think. Wasn't it your country, New Zealand?
Ah, New Zealand. Fantastic.
It was a really, really, really nice honeymoon trip. Yeah, it was really. You have a nice country. Really, really, really nice.
Thank you. I enjoy your country. As in how I first met Tanguy was at MVP Summit, where he requested that I bring I think it was a Kiwi hat.
Yeah, Kiwi hats. Yeah,
that your wife wanted right after you'd had a honeymoon in New Zealand.
Yeah, she wanted to wear it when we are skiing in the Alps.
Excellent. So, you're world famous in the dynamic space for the XrmToolBox. Tell us about how did that kind of get started, and how did you decide to start creating, this set of tools, and kind of the journey you've been on since that point?
Okay, so it all started, I guess, when I was an intern at Microsoft France. It was in 2003, 2004. I started to work with what was called Microsoft Business Solution Customer Relationship Management. So it was a version 1.2. It was just launched in France. And I was working at Microsoft, and so some Microsoft consultant asked me to write an import tool, because as far as I remember, we didn't have one in version 1.2. So I started to write my own. So this was really the first step in developing tools for CRM. And later, in my developer job on Microsoft Dynamics CRM, I was kind of the boring man. I don't want to do the same step again and again, and I don't want to customize these views 3, 4, 5 times because I have so many views for the same entity. So I thought about writing tools that could improve the productivity for this kind of task, really repetitive. So it started this way, and the reflection to say, the thing to say, well, if it's useful for me, it can be useful for other consultants too. So I decided to share these tools on internet. So I'm not kind of web developers and on website designer or this kind of stuff. So it was just give me a blog, somewhere where I can put my files to be downloaded. And yeah, it started this way, and hopefully my employer these days accepted that I shared these tools, because they were created during my work time. So some companies wouldn't have accepted to share the IP or the tools on the internet, but my employer did. So it started this way. It was in CRM 3 or 4, I guess, when I started to share tools. And I got many tools. Each time there was a repetitive task or something not doable in the UI, but doable through the SDK. Say, okay, so I can create a tool and share it. But there was, many tools. I guess maybe 12 or 13 tools when I started to think about, I need something to gather these tools together and be sure they are more discoverable. Because when you have just some little tools, here, it's not really easy to make them discoverable for users. So I was thinking about creating one tool that will have all these tools together. Meaning if someone downloads the tool for one specific purpose, you can see, hey, there's a lot of other tools here. Maybe I can give it a try. So yeah, this was the idea. And that leads to XrmToolBox.
Wow. So you said there 12 to 13 tools to start with, that you then, did you kind of bring those together and name that the XrmToolBox at that point?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, how many tools are there now, and are you the only person authoring new tools in the XrmToolBox? How has that changed or grown over time?
So I'm definitely not the only developer on XrmToolBox anymore. It was, of course, the case at the beginning. So as today, just browsing to XrmToolBox.com website to give you the figures. But we have 136 plugins developed and registered. Yeah, but I guess maybe 15 of them are not validated because they doesn't meet the minimum criteria of quality or stuff like that, and so I didn't validate them for now. And I couldn't say how many developers we have. That's at least I will say at least 20 to 30 developers, something like that. And for my own parts, I will say I must have something like 30 to 40 plugins in XrmToolBox. So that's a big community, I will say, a big developer community for XrmToolBox. And there is some people with multiple plugins, some people just trying one plugin, so really one plugin for one specific purpose. But that's really great to see new plugins coming maybe every week or 2 weeks. This time, this is the figures. Every 2 weeks, I have a new plugin to validate. So that's really nice, and I'm quite proud to see how it grew up. And sometimes I already think what I've done. I have created a monster. It was just some tools to share. It's more than 100 plugins, and so I have to validate them and be sure everything works and nothing breaks. The XrmToolBox. It's not always easy, but it's nice to see so much people involved in this project.
Do you have any kind of numbers around how many downloads there have been over, the period of time that you've made the XrmToolBox available?
I couldn't say. It was something like 2,000 downloads per month last time I checked. but it was last year or 2 years ago. I don't have the figures or the counter of the recent months, but I guess it is something like that. What I will add, this is ready for the next version, but I have some other features to implement. But for the next version of XrmToolBox, I will be able to understand how much time XrmToolBox is run around the world. So that will be nice to see. How many people are using it, where, how many times. Yeah, it will be some quite nice. But for now, I don't know exactly, but it was something like 2,000 per month or download per month, something like that.
So you must have had over 1 million people so far download it. Would that be right?
Yeah, I guess not maybe millions, but.
Well, as in, I know another one of the major tools out there has, last time I was chatting with them, they had between, it was either 500 or 600,000 downloads, and that was just for one of the tools. So I assume that, with the 136 odd tools that you've got on yours, that kind of engagement would be so much higher.
Yeah, I couldn't tell, but and this is not individual user, of course. I guess some people are just downloading again and again, and each updates of the toolbox count as a download. So yeah, you can have people that have the toolbox and downloaded it 20 times, but it's still the same users. So yeah, I couldn't tell exactly. I don't have the figures, but yeah. This seems to be the major tool for working with dynamic CRM. So, and no PowerApps if we need to say it.
Do you see more tools coming out that are going to be more PowerApp centric? And what I mean by that is that you'll start seeing, we know that PowerApps is really model driven apps and Canvas apps, but do you see kind of more tooling that will help around the Flow and Canvas app experience as well as the traditional model-driven experience?
I'm not sure, or at least not part of XrmToolBox, since XrmToolBox is just aiming to target dynamic CRM organizations, and so it just work against the SDK, and there is nothing new in the SDK regarding Flow or Canvas apps so far, except this component being part of the solutions. But except this point, I don't see anything coming just because the SDK doesn't expose new messages to work with these components.
What are the opportunities for other developers that, let's say, they want to get involved in the XrmToolBox? How do they go about, engaging with you, creating an app, getting it validated? What's kind of the process that you have for allowing other people to build applications or tools on the XrmToolBox?
Yeah, so there was some nice work done, not just myself, but with Jonas Rapp and Daryl Labar about documentation for XrmToolBox. So when you go in the XrmToolBox.com portal, there is a documentation page with some documentation for users, but also for developers, where you can just follow the steps to create your own tools. So of course you need some skills in C# or .NET, and WinForms, because I know that Marius Agar just had to learn WinForms to create his own tools for XrmToolBox, and it was quite painful for him, as far as understood. So if you have the skills, you can quite fast create your XrmToolBox plugins. I created a template for Visual Studio so that you don't start from scratch, but you have some pre-formatted templates where you can just add your business logic, and you don't care for the rest. And then you just have to package it as a NuGet package and register your plugins on the XrmToolBox portal. And I am notified of a new version, ready for validation. I'm just controlling the NuGet package, testing the application, just check that it doesn't crash at the first action, just to be sure it's working nice. And then it's validated, and so it's available on the plugin store, which is this library where you can find the existing plugins.
Right. So you mentioned WinForms there and Marius's experience of it. Is WinForms kind of do you see that as the way forward, or do you see as there's other C# alternatives to using WinForms in the future with perhaps what are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, this is WinForm just because I started to work on XrmToolBox as WinForms, and so this is the way to go. That could be WPF. So Windows Presentation Foundation, but I must admit I have no skills on WPF, and that will maybe require everybody to rewrite their tools. That will be a lot of work, and maybe too much of work. But there is an alternative that was used by Scott Duro, which is with is a Ribbon Workbench. He added in this WinForm a local web server, and so the Ribbon Workbench is really rendered as a web application with the HTML and JavaScript, but working inside XrmToolBox. So this is an alternative, and I think that we will maybe see the REST builder created this way. I guess it was I heard or I saw. So we should have many other tools coming with an HTML based interface.
As in, if you're building it today, would you have still gone with WinForms, or would you choose an alternative if you're building it today?
The native way, if I could say that, is really to create WinForms, because you have all the extensibility logic from XrmToolBox, which is available. Just one, for example, when using Ribbon Workbench, if you change your connection on XrmToolBox, it cannot update the connection in Ribbon Workbench because it just works with the existing connection. But if you are working with WinForms, you can ask to change the connection of Open plugin. So this is just one example among others, but there is more extensibility features when you use WinForms than when you use another way to create your plugins.
What kind of gaps do you see in the XrmToolBox? In other words, where are the opportunities for somebody to come along and build a new tooling? Do you see there's any, or do you reckon that the community now with your 30 odd developers have kind of covered all the kind of and when I say gaps, not so much gaps in the XrmToolBox, but more gaps in the platform, in the the Microsoft Power Platform that you can create tools for? Do you see any opportunities out there for people to start building a new tool?
There was already some other alternative to XrmToolBox that exists. I'm thinking about xrm.tools from David Yak, which is a way to expose tools for dynamic CRM and in general even PowerApps. So, but I don't see any gaps. We are just linked to what Microsoft can offer us through the SDK or through their APIs. So today there is. I don't see anything that could be better handled. As soon as you can write code against API, then you can create your own tools or your own platforms if you want, and you can make it extensible. But it's not. I don't see any other possibility. I have someone that contacted me last week, and he has some kind of tooling for Visual Studio. And he said, okay, XrmToolBox is really cool, but I still have to open XrmToolBox and connect and open tools. And what he says is, in my Visual Studio tooling, I already have the possibility to connect to an organization, and I really would like to open your plugins, but directly in Visual Studio. So this is what the gap I can see is really where you launch tools from. So here, I'm always in XrmToolBox, but if you're working with Visual Studio, maybe you would like to launch tools from Visual Studio directly, or maybe any other app. I was already see this comment too. It was, can we open XrmToolBox tools from the web UI, from directly from Dynamics CRM, maybe with a button in the ribbon or something like that. So it could definitely be possible, but it will require to improve XrmToolBox or find another way to trigger the application and open a tool directly. Yeah.
So over time, this, I've had many projects that have naturally used your, the toolbox over probably since it pretty much started, because it became the main tool very rapidly in the market. You've probably saved projects, thousands and thousands of hours. Do you have an option for people to kind of make a donation or something like that towards all the, the considerable amount of effort and time that's been saved on projects?
Yeah, you can effectively make a donation through PayPal. So you can make donation to me as the XrmToolBox creator, but you can also make donation to each individual plugin developer. So for XrmToolBox, you can show the page on XrmToolBox.com. There is a donation web page, or you can directly use in XrmToolBox. There is a about menu with a donate submenu, and here you can just click on the link to open PayPal. And if the developers included the interface for PayPal, you can also donate directly to a plugin developer. So you can do it for Daryl Labar, for Jonas Rapp, there's many other developers that implemented this interface in XrmToolBox. So yeah, you can do this if you want to thank the developers.
You created this fantastic tool. Is that how you became an MVP off the work you've done on that? Tell us a bit about your journey of becoming an MVP and how long you've been an MVP, and kind of what has your experiences been as becoming an MVP?
Definitely the XrmToolBox or the tools. It didn't start with XrmToolBox, but with the individual tools. That's what made me an MVP, for sure. So it was in 2010. So let me check my trophy. Yes. So yes, it's 9 years, 9 years, and it will be 10 years. 10 years next year. And so yeah, my MVP journey, it was it's quite, or maybe easier than other MVPs to stay MVP, I guess, because the tools are always there. So I need to prove that there is updates and downloads of my tools, of course. But they are here and they are really used around the world. So it's easier to be maintained as an MVP. But it's really a nice addition to my resume, I guess, because every people see MVP and say, wow, he's really a known guy. He's really he's an expert, which is not always easy because people think you know everything about everything, But it's really nice to be MVP. I really enjoy being part of the community, and especially the CRM community. I already met a lot of you guys at the MVP Summit, and it's really nice. But I sometimes feel I'm not doing the same job as other MVPs, because you are many to be at every show about Dynamics CRM. You are doing D365 Saturdays. You are doing every summit possible, and for my part, I cannot do that. I'm just a simple consultant, I like to say, and I have to bring back money to my company. So, I can go to MVP Summit, which is really nice. And I thanks my company for letting me doing this. But that's the only event, I can attend. And for the rest, I just have to work and bring back some money.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But your contribution to the community of people in Microsoft Business Applications have been absolutely phenomenal. Your work definitely speaks for itself. Recently, did you get published in CRM magazine or something like that? And kind of how did you find that? And what was the process?
I was introduced to the publisher of the CRMUG magazine by Gus Gonzalez. Because there was there should be a specific magazine about tooling in the dynamic CRM world. So they asked Gus to introduce me so that I can write some lines about my how the XrmToolBox started and so on. So, like what we are doing right now. And so this was just, writing some lines and being validated. So it was quite nice. What I wasn't aware about, was the title of the article in the magazine.
What was the title?
The Man, the Myth, the Legend.
The Man, the Myth, the Legend. Yeah. That was awesome.
No one told me about this one. So people like to laugh at me, about this title, but, I wasn't aware, I swear.
Yeah. What have you found the biggest benefit to you, as in, so your career, that type of thing, from becoming an MVP?
For sure, I have a more recognition about companies. So that make me, I just say that, there's a company I'm working for, just come to me just to work for them and say, hey, you're MVP. It's really valuable for us. Even as a marketing standpoint, yeah, we have at this time I was the only one CRM MVP in France. So it was, we are the only MVP in France, or work with us, etc., etc. So it was really valuable. So that helped this company to employ me too. This is all customers want to work with me, which is not possible, of course. But this is really really nice to see people that respect you for what you've done, and that says every time that the XrmToolBox is great, etc., etc. It's really nice. It doesn't change quite a lot of stuff in my career except this employment, but I get a lot of thanks and the tool, and there is all of benefits from being an MVP. From Microsoft, being able to interact with the product team, etc.
So 2019, the Rugby World Cup is coming up next year, and naturally France will be there at some point playing New Zealand. Who do you think is going to win the Rugby World Cup?
I just watched the last game in France, and it was not a nice one. So but it's just a competition. Anyone can win. But in the end, against New Zealand will win.
Yeah, I tell you, as in, I was traveling in the south of France a couple of years ago, and as a Kiwi visiting, it was while the World Cup was on, and the French just seemed to love us so much. It was so nice, as in, really looked after us if we ever went to a bar or a cafe and they found out that we're Kiwis. It was just incredible how much the French seemed to, get on well with the New Zealanders. So it was very nice. Tanguy, it's been great talking to you. If people want to find you online, I know it shouldn't be too hard. What's the best way to contact you? Do you have Twitter or a website or something like that?
The easiest is Twitter or Facebook. There is the XrmToolBox portal, but there is no way to contact me through this channel. And we have a Gitter, which is a chat for GitHub. A Gitter channel where you can ask your question about XrmToolBox, and so it's just
And so people should just look up. What's your Twitter handle? Is it Tanguy?
It's Tanguy Touzard. Just my first name and last name.
Hey, thanks for listening. This is the last show from me that'll be on CRM.audio network. It's now moving to its own dedicated podcast, which you can find by searching for NZ365 Guy on your favorite podcast player. The actual official name of the podcast is the Microsoft Business Applications Podcast. Full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/55. I'll talk to you next week.